So this movie was really good. This movie was good, and it was sad at the same time. Now there were some, I feel like some like plot holes, just a little, just a few, just a few. But overall, this was a good movie though. Like I said, I wanted to cry after I got done watching this movie, but this is a good movie. But anyways, so I don't know, y'all. In the beginning, they were, at the very beginning, whenever the main family had went, they were on vacation, and mom and the dad were talking to each other, and the mom was like, basically telling him like, oh no, this is a vacation, we going on, so that the kids can have one last good memory with us before we divorce. And I was like, and sometimes people will instantly take sides, like, oh, it was the woman's fault, no, it was the man's fault. And you can't really, because they didn't give you enough information to go off of. They didn't really tell you, who did what wrong. All you know later on in the movies that the wife was probably talking to somebody on the side, and that he actually did, like, he knew, but he didn't say anything. So I don't know, like I said, I've been trying to, like, remain neutral and not like take sides. But if you're in a relationship with somebody and they know that you're about to leave them for somebody else, and they don't say anything or they don't confront you right off the bat, I think that speaks volumes about their character. Because there have been some people who they've been in that position and they had been plotting demise, okay? But he didn't even confront her about it, So I feel like I said, I try to remain neutral. And I know this is gonna be like a contradictory to what I said, but I feel like she might have been the one with the issue in the relationship. But anyways, I was like, dang, they about to get a divorce. And those beautiful kids, love both of them. And then so they get on this little carpool thing with these other people. And the important thing was that, like, they had went to, before they had left, they were going around the resort, the brother, and he was with that other young boy who I think was the nephew of the guy who was the owner, that crooked man. And they were going around asking, like, some of the adults also, what do you do for a living? And they were like, oh, that's so cute. I'm a doctor, I'm a lawyer, and I'm a cop. So there was like one guy, he was a cop. And then they were talking to this young man, and I think he gave them him a letter or something like that. And then his uncle was like, don't play with them. And he kind of just sitting there like he was like so sad. And I was like, what is wrong with him? What did the boy do to anybody? Anyways, so they go, and this guy's like, oh, we can take you to this like hidden like part of the island, and like we can like, it's free of charge. Oh, well, the guy, the owner, was like, oh, I was just like giving out like free rides to like free like secluded areas, like y'all just happen to be the family that I chose, so don't tell anybody. And I'm like, that's not suspicious at all. So they're like, oh, we're so excited, let's go. And so they go with him, and they have the other family with like the doctor and young woman who I guess she was like a model with her kid and his mom and their pet. And they drive out to this place, and he tells them like, oh, it's right down that road, you just keep walking and call me like when y'all are ready for me to pick you up. And I'm like, okay, so why didn't he walk them down there? Like, that was already question number one. Why didn't he walk them down there? It was already suspicious when he was up there talking about some don't tell anybody. Like, I was like, And then like strange roads where you drop us off and you don't come with us. So they get down there, and they're like, oh yeah, and they're like unpacking stuff, and and there was this guy, and I think he actually, I don't know any of the actors and actresses' names, but I think this particular guy I think he played in Krypton, the series. He was there, and they had a scene where he was with some young woman, and now what didn't make sense to me, he should have been a lot older now that I think, but anyways, he was with some young woman, and I don't appreciate the nudity at all. Like, shame on y'all, okay? Anyways, so she's like basically skinny dipping because it was just the two of them, and then he was just there, like, and it was kind of weird to me, and I was like, oh, okay. And so he comes up, and his nose is bleeding, and I was like, and then the girl's nowhere to be found, and then they found her body just like floating, in the water, like face down or whatever. And then of course, they would instantly blame him. Of course, blame the brother, of course. And they were like, why is your nose bleeding? And he was like, I have a disease or whatever. And in my mind, I'm like, okay, so what makes y'all think, first of all, Okay, yes, I know. Like, you're like, oh, his nose is bleeding and she's face down and they were supposedly here together. What makes y'all think that he did it, though? What if she tried to kill him? I'm just saying. And then she slipped and fell and hit her head on a rock. Like, oh, no, but we got to blame that made me so mad. Anyways, and that white doctor, tell me you're racist without telling me you're racist. Anyways, he was looking at him like, I bet you did it. And I was like, anyways, so he was like, I have a disease. That's why my nose is bleeding. And so they were like, well, what's going on here? And he was like, I don't know. And then they tried to like leave the way that they came. And they kept passing out. And they was like, well, for whatever reason, every time we try to like, leave, we get lightheaded and then we end up back here. And they're like, well, something's going on. And then the kids start growing like weeds. The daughter had on like a the bathing suit, and she was like spilling out of the bathing suit in all of the places. And the mom's like, honey, let me just give you my spare bathing suit. And I was like, well, thank God she had a spare bathing suit, because this girl would have been close to naked as she kept growing with that bathing suit on. And the kids were confused. They were like, where's our kids? And they're like, we're right here. Mom, we're right here. I was like, I don't know. It was just, I was like, oh my God. And then they started to realize, and then the psychiatrist and the nurse came in, the married couple. And then they realized, like, oh God, something is going on with this island. It must be like the rock formation is causing our cells to mature at a faster rate. And then I think they said that they were like growing like one year per 30 minutes. So every hour they were like 2 years older. And I was like, y'all are gonna be dead like soon, if that's the case. Like, y'all are looking at death within like the next like 2 days, maybe less than that, 1.5 days. And then the racist doctor, yeah, he gonna cut the black man in his face with the knife, talking about like he was trying to see something. And they were like, look, it's like healing or whatever. And I'm just like, I was like, I don't know how much patience I have with this man. Like, I really just don't. And oh yeah, that's right. Then you had the scene with the mom who had a tumor. Like, and then here's the thing, I think it was the therapist. She was like, okay, we need to like talk about something. So clearly he has a problem. That's why he's bleeding at the nose all the time. We all have issues. We all let's just talk about like what is it, like, And she didn't want to tell anybody, I guess, that she had a tumor. But the husband was like, it's fine. Like, what else do we have to lose right now? The doctor, the racist doctor, didn't want to admit that he was having mental health issues. I think his wife had like a calcium deficiency. The mom was just old. I hate to say it that way, but she was just old, so she just ended up clocking out. Like, I think she clocked out like, I don't know how long they had been there. It had to be like maybe 2 or 3 hours. So yeah, that should tell you, you do the math, and hey, that's probably as long as she probably had. I hate to say it that way. And he was upset, so that was working on him. And so all of them had issues, except for like the kids, though. So that's why I was really mad, because I was like, so y'all roped these people into this, including their kids. They didn't even have issues. But anyways, the wife had a tumor. Tumor started to grow like crazy. I mean, it was like bulging out of her side, like at first it was like a tennis ball, then it was growing to like close to like soccer ball size. And the doctor was like, we have to cut it out now. And I'm like, so y'all gonna do surgery right there on the beach? And they're trying to cut it, and the wound is like closing up. They're like, you gotta stick your hands in it. And I'm so glad they didn't show us, because I never aspired to be a surgeon, and I still don't want to be one, because I wouldn't make it through that. I just wouldn't. And so they managed to get it out of there, and that was good. And she just so happened to be passed out, which was even better, because she didn't have to like feel all of that. And so then, like I said, they were freaking out because they still didn't know what to do. And then like the youngest son, or he was younger than the daughter, the son of the main family, and the daughter from the guy who was a doctor, the racist doctor, yeah, they started like going through puberty. I don't know how they ended up alone with each other. Well, they kept saying, go and play, kids. And I'm like, they're not going to be kids for long. And they were like, just go play and we'll handle this. They ended up by themselves in a tent. And like I said, going through puberty, feeling like, you know, the feelings that young people feel, no supervision at all. And she ends up getting pregnant and then comes to term like within probably like 30 minutes. Because remember, like, one year is 30 minutes, so less than 30 minutes she was already ready to give birth. And then they were like, where's my son, where's my daughter? And then they coming out of the tent holding hands, you know, like they about to get married like tomorrow, and she's pregnant, full term pregnant, and they're like, what did you do to my daughter? And then she starts to give birth, and then her mother freaks out and just leaves her there, like, and she was like, don't leave me. And I'm like, lady, how can you do that? Like, I thought you loved your daughter. Like, I mean, anyways, the baby didn't even make it because the island just didn't have suitable conditions for the child to be born. And then they had to bury their kid, and it was really sad because they literally went through all the stages of like life. Like, they got together. They didn't get to get married though, but they had a baby. The baby died. They got older, and I was like, dang, they didn't deserve to go through that. And they just couldn't take it. Like, they just couldn't take it. And then the racist doctor killed the black man for no reason, talking about that man with the tattoos is gonna steal our things. And you mean the black man? You mean you thought because he was black he was gonna steal your stuff? Anyways, and then the nurse, he was like, well, I'm a good swimmer. I can try and swim out and see if I can get help. And they were like, you know, you're gonna have to swim out like 100 yards against the current, and then take a turn and swim for we don't know how long after that. He was like, don't worry, I'll just try. His wife was like, please be careful. And he was like, we got to do something. And he had suggested that like they could try to walk slowly through that entrance, but it was gonna take like possibly 20 years. He's like, so anybody want to risk 20 years going? And they should have just risked it. I don't know, maybe they should have just tried it, but I don't know. So, newsflash, spoiler alert, the nurse didn't make it. His dead body floated up. The daughter found him, and so that didn't work. And then, like, the wife died from her seizures, and that was just so sad. And it was sad because the doctor was just like, well, he had already, like I said, I guess the mental health issues took him. And it was unfortunate because he might have been able to save her, or maybe not. But, you know, nobody knows, you know, because what happened to him. And then his wife was like walking around upset because I guess she was aging. She didn't have her calcium. She was having a midlife crisis because she knew she was about to be old real fast. Everything was sagging. There was nothing she could do about it. And she was losing it too. But I'm just like, but lady, your daughter is out here too, like, don't forget about her. And then she was trying to climb the rocks, and then she just couldn't because she couldn't find nowhere else to go because she basically got to like a dead end, and she just let go and fell to the bottom. And this girl's mother was still like hidden in the cave, and thanks to her cuckoo husband, I'm sorry, I should have said that, I'm probably gonna edit that out, because of her husband over here talking about put some makeup on your face. I was like, are you kidding me? Y'all are in an emergency right now, and that's all you worried about? Made this woman feel even more insecure than she probably already did. And all that time she was spending like walking around hiding because she felt bad about how she looked, her daughter was having her own crisis that she wasn't alone because the family was there. But, you know, then she gonna be like, where's my daughter? Where's my daughter? And I'm like, so now you're worried about your daughter? Your daughter is gone, literally, like gone. And it's sad because even when they were gonna bury the baby, it was literally like not even that long before the baby's body. It was dust. And I was like, your daughter's long gone. You should have been worried about her, like, you know, a little while ago. Like, it's too late for that now. I mean, they were dropping like one after the other one, and then the father's eyesight started going. The mother went deaf in one ear, and then finally they talked to each other about what they needed to for so long, about like her deciding that she didn't want to be with him no more, how she was seeing somebody on the side, and he actually knew about it, but he didn't say anything about it. And his response to that was like very mature, I will say that, because I know there's some men out here, they'll be choking people like if she pulled a stunt like that on them, but he handled it really maturely, I will say that much. And you know, they finally talked about it and all that kind of stuff, and they did have that moment like right before they died, one after the other, which was so sad because that was all that the kids had left, and that was like before like the doctor finally lost it and was like trying to kill them with a knife, and then the mom finally kept that rusty knife, and I was like, yeah, catch that tetanus, and she cut him with that knife, and she was like, hey, here it's gonna speed up and move faster. And I was like, I did not feel, I'm sorry, but I did not feel bad for him at all. And so it was just the two of them after that, and they were like basically in their 50s, like, you know, because she was like 11 and he was like I think 6 whenever they first started, so he was like 50 and she was like 55, and they were like so sad because they were like, should we try one more time? We should try to get out one more time. She was like, yeah. Oh, but you never read the letter from that kid or whatever. He's like, you sure? Right, I didn't. So he goes, he gets the letter, he reads the letter, and it says, my uncle hates the rocks. I mean, not the rocks, hates the coral. And they were looking out at the coral, and it was like an intense moment, like when he showed her that letter, and they were looking at each other like, the coral, and they're like, we never thought to try that yet, but can we make it? And they were like, well, it's worth a shot. And so they had like a book that did explain everything that was going on. They put it in a plastic bag, and they were like, we gotta try, we gotta at least try. And I commend them. They could have just been like, let's just lay down and just enjoy these last few moments that we have. But they were like, we have to keep trying because people have to know what's going on. And then they go and they're swimming in the coral, and I for real thought that they died. I was about to be so PO'd. And then they showed you all why this beach was a whole thing, how they had people that were watching them after all, that was giving them information back to the guy who owned the place, and they were using these people and this beach so that they could get like results for their stupid medication, like in one day instead of waiting like, you know, decades like people would normally have to. And justifying it like, now we can help people. I'm like, bro, y'all just killed like how many families, like without their consent. Like there's no justification for what they did. And I'm thinking, wow, these people are really gonna get away with this. And then all of a sudden you see them coming out of the water, or you know, you notice that they've come out of the water. He hands the notebook to the guy that's a cop. He was like, you're a cop, right? And he was like, yeah, I am. And he was like, take this. He like flipping through it, and he was like, he was like, okay, I'm gonna call this in. And then they go find the kid, and they stopped, you know, they had like one more couple that they was about to trick, and they stopped it from happening. They exposed everything, and I was like, and then I like pointed out to my brother, I was like, notice that guy that brought them there did not go with them. He was like, oh, I can't go with y'all have to go by yourselves. And I was like, oh really? And so, but anyways, it was just crazy to me, like how when they went back and they showed how they actually survived, how like, you know, they were swimming in the coral and she got stuck, but he didn't stop, and he, you know, he helped her. And then they had like holes in the top of the coral for them to go and breathe, which, you know, allowed them to stay on the water to make it look like they had drowned, but they didn't. And then they made it out on the other side. I was just like, wow, I was so happy, and they had made it. They exposed these people, but it's like, you know, it was good they exposed them. Although it's like, where do you go after that? Like, these people literally robbed them of like majority of their life. They were literally like they were like in the mid, closer to the end stages of their life, you know. So it's like, what do you do after that? And so me and my brother were like, we would have sued them. We would have sued them into the ground. Like, we would have made sure every piece of equipment, everything, that island, that would have been our island, and then we would have blew it to smithereens, so nothing like that could happen to anybody again. And we would have took the money that we got from suing them to the ground, and we would have lived off of it and did the best that we could with what time we had left. And I was just like, that is just so sad. Like, it was just heartbreaking that, like I said, they had most of their life robbed of them. Their parents died right before their very eyes. That whole fiasco was traumatizing for them. And they still were like kids in adult bodies. But the part that didn't make sense to me was when they were saying like, you know, when they were aging. Okay, so I was like, okay, I get it, I guess. But then it was like, okay, so, but even though they're like getting older and their brains are maturing, you know, I would still think that they would be acting like kids, and they kind of were, but they seem more mature though. But it still didn't make sense, because it's like, I mean, even if your brain matures, there's still things you have to know and experience to be mature, right? I don't know, but that's, you know, that part was a little bit like, okay. But anyways, whole life robbed from them. But I was just happy that they got out. But it was just so sad. It was so bittersweet because they had survived, but they lost both their parents long before they should have. The brother lost his wife. Well, she wasn't his wife, but his girlfriend and their child. They watched a man kill people. Like, whew, like I said, we would have sued them into the ground and took everything. Like we would have been laughing to the bank every day. And it's just like, it was like I said, it was bittersweet. It was good that they got out and he stopped it and they had help and they saw the kid again. And he was like, he just looked so sad because it's like he knew that something bad was happening to those people and there was really nothing he could do to stop it. But that letter, man, that letter saved them. And I was like, man, this was good, but it was so sad. Like, so sad. But anyways, y'all tell me what y'all think in the comments. This was a good movie, but it was very sad. But anyways, bittersweet. Y'all tell me what y'all think in the comments, okay?